In a forgotten village, surrounded by rice fields and whispering hills, an old man died under a thunderstorm. Struck by lightning as he worked alone, his body scorched, one arm raised as if still pleading to the sky. His family buried him under the tamarind tree by the northern path, no ceremony, just haste. But not all of him went into the ground. That same night, a shadow moved among the graves. A man in black. No face. No sound. He dug into the dirt. Stole only the arm. With it, he vanished into the hills. And the curse began. They call it the lightning arm. The storm came without warning. No clouds. No wind. Just thunder. Old Ong Hak was out in the fields, planting rice alone. He was known in the village, stubborn, quiet, always carried a jade charm on his belt. They said he'd once fought off a tiger with a sickle. But on that day, he raised his head to the sky. And lightning answered. It struck him square in the chest. His straw hat burned. His eyes boiled. When the villagers found him, his body was curled. But his right arm was reaching up, stiff, fingers clawed. His wife screamed. His sons cried. The body was buried that same day, no ceremony. The ground was still warm. But the grave didn't stay untouched. That night, someone or something came. Footprints. Deep. Clawed. By morning, the grave was open. The body still inside. But the arm was gone. The village tried to stay silent. But whispers grew. A curse had begun. Days passed. Chickens stopped laying eggs. Dogs howled at nothing. Children refused to sleep. Then, the dreams came.
He's reaching.
He's hungry.
He wants it back.
Elder Balu, blind for 10 years, stood in the market and screamed.
The arm is not dead. It walks.
No one listened. Until the monk disappeared. He was last seen meditating beneath the tamarind tree. When they found his robes, they were empty. Just a single blackened handprint pressed into the dirt. Deep in the hills behind the village lived a man people feared, though most never saw him. They called him the Black Sorcerer. Some said he once studied in Hue. Others whispered he came from Cambodia, with spirits in his breath. All agreed on one thing, he could speak with the dead. After Ong Hak's death, the sorcerer returned. He wore robes the color of storm clouds. His face was hidden beneath a tattered conical hat. He came to the tamarind tree. Saturday. Waited. Birds refused to land nearby. That night, a child disappeared. Her name was Bi Lin. She was 6. Last seen playing with a doll near the rice fields. The next morning, her doll was found tied to the tree. Its arms removed. Its eyes replaced with stones. Then, people began to hear knocking. From under their beds. Inside their wells. Always 3 knocks. Slow. Wet. One woman, Tao, tried to flee the village with her baby. Her baby cried all night. But at sunrise, the crying stopped. She opened the blanket. The baby was cold. In its tiny hand, a burnt rice stalk. Tao screamed. And never stopped. The sorcerer watched from a distance. He began his ritual. Beneath his hut, he placed the stolen arm on a stone slab. He lit candles made from pig fat and crow feathers. Around it, he carved words no human should say. Blood dripped from his nose as he whispered. Bone for power. Nail for blood. Soul for hunger. The fingers moved. The nails grew long, cracked, black. And the hand opened, palm upward. That night, a fisherman found his net filled with human teeth. A priest saw smoke rise from his crucifix. A cow gave birth to a calf with one arm, human. The sorcerer laughed.
It begins.
But the curse did not obey him. He thought he could control it. He was wrong. That night, he woke to find the arm missing. The door still locked. Windows shut. But his altar was empty. The candles were out. And on the wall, written in something dark and wet, were the words, "It walks on its own." After the sorcerer vanished, the village grew quiet. Too quiet. The air was heavy. The wind refused to blow. Then came the family of Back Lam, a retired carpenter. They moved into the abandoned hut near the tamarind tree, unaware of its history. Back Lam had a grandson, Kwa, 8 years old. Curious, gentle, bright-eyed. On their third night, Kwa woke to a strange knocking. Not at the door, but from beneath the floor. He followed the sound. Under the house, buried in dry earth, he found a silk cloth, red, faded, rotting. Inside was an arm. It was pale, veined. The fingers curled slightly. But worst of all, it was warm.
Hello?
No answer. Kwa didn't tell anyone. That night, he dreamed of lightning. And of someone whispering in the rice fields. The next morning, he had a fever. His eyes turned cloudy. And he spoke in a voice not his own.
He watches. He listens. He waits.
His mother screamed. Back Lam tried to throw the arm into the fire, but it did not burn. It sat in the flames. Untouched. Breathing. That day, the mirrors in the house cracked. Frogs appeared in the toilet. The water turned black. Kwa no longer blinked. He began carving symbols into the walls with his fingernails. The family called a monk. This child holds a curse far older than any prayer. The monk placed salt on Kwa's forehead, his skin smoked. The arm twitched. That night, the monk was found dead in the lotus pond. His body bloated, his face frozen in a screen. On his chest, a blackened handprint. Kwa's parents fled the village. Left him behind. But it didn't matter. Wherever they went, the knocking followed. After Kwa was abandoned, the villagers avoided the tamarind tree completely. No one walked that path. No one lit incense. But Tien, a teenage girl with a sweet voice, ignored the warnings. She believed in reason, not spirits. Her friends dared her to walk past the tree and sing. That night, the moon was full. Tian walked the narrow path alone. She hummed softly, a lullaby her grandmother once taught her. The wind stopped. The leaves trembled. And a voice hummed back.
Pemmenum. La. La. Pemmenum.
Tian froze. She turned, but saw no one. Then, she saw a figure at the base of the tree. Small. Childlike. Kneeling. It was Kwa. But his eyes were gone. In his hands, the arm, now twitching.
Sing with me.
Tian screamed and ran. That night, her voice disappeared. She opened her mouth to speak. But only air came out. Doctors found nothing wrong. But when they scanned her lungs, they saw shadows curling like roots. Then the others began to change. People heard humming at midnight, always the same tune. Those who heard it once forgot how to speak. Those who heard it twice lost their tongues in dreams. One man, desperate, cut off his ears. He still heard it. The village held a gathering, burned incense, prayed aloud. A wind howled through the temple, scattering ashes, snapping candles. A voice echoed through the smoke.
You buried his body, but you did not bury his voice.
Elder Balu wept blood. A teacher lost her jaw in her sleep. A newborn spoke in whispers older than language. And Qua, he now sat beneath the tamarind tree, humming, feeding the arm with pieces of cloth, hair, teeth. The lullaby never stopped. Even when no one was around. Even when no one was alive. The village was dying. Not from sickness, but from silence. People stopped talking, stopped laughing. Even funerals were quiet. Then came the deaths without wounds. First, a young man named Ben, healthy, strong, newly married. His wife found him lying in bed, smiling, and cold. His chest was untouched, but inside, his heart was missing. Next was the baker, Mr. Can, collapsed by his oven. No burns, no trauma, but no heart. Every time it happened, the sky turned gray, and the tamarind tree wept sap the color of blood. The villagers called in a medium, Coach Wee. She wore white, carried prayer beads made from fish bones. She walked the village with a bowl of rice in one hand, and a candle in the other. The flame bent toward the tamarind tree. Always. She held a ritual. Sprinkled salt in a circle. Burned old bones.
Reveal the name of the devourer.
The wind answered. And the rice in her bowl turned red.
Lightning. Arm.
That night, she dreamed of a shadow crawling across ceilings. It had no head. Just an arm, dragging its fingers across doors. She awoke screaming. Her door was gone. In its place, a blackened handprint burned into the wall. The next day, she fled the village. Her candle still burning in her hand. It never went out. More people died. Always smiling. Always heartless. The doctor who performed autopsies went mad. He claimed the hearts weren't taken. They had walked out. He was found dead. A trail of bloody footprints leading from his chest to the tamarind roots. No one knew who was next. But one night, the entire village heard the knocking. Not from doors. From within their walls. 3 knocks. Then a whisper.
Give it. Or he'll take it.
It began with children drawing eyes on everything. On walls. On trees. On their own skin. When asked why, they answered in whispers.
So he can see.
Then, people began seeing shapes in mirrors. Not reflections, but watchers. Black arms. White eyes. No mouths. Elder Nam, the mirror maker, covered every surface in his home. Shattered his own collection. One morning, he was found dead, eyes gouged out, mirrors intact. And on his floor, dozens of tiny bloody eyes. Blinking. In the fields, a farmer tripped on something buried. It was a jar. Sealed with wax. Inside, 2 glass marbles. But they moved. They blinked. That night, he lost his sight. Not gradually. Just gone. His eyes were still in his skull, but they belonged to someone else. He screamed.
It's not darkness. It's him.
The tamarind tree bloomed again. But instead of leaves, it grew eyeballs. They dangled, watching in all directions. None of them blinked. Villagers began to cover their own eyes with cloth, wax, mud. But it didn't help. The curse didn't need their eyes. It had its own. Tal, a local schoolteacher, began to lose time. She'd teach the same lesson 6 times. She'd forget faces. But each night, she painted a perfect portrait of the arm. In one painting, it held an eye in its palm. In the next, it held 2. In the last, it held her own face. That night, she gouged out her eyes with a spoon. On her wall, in her blood, were the words,
I won't see for him anymore.
Her house burned. No fire touched it. It simply crumpled inward, as if watched too closely. People tried to blind themselves. Some succeeded. But they still saw. In their dreams, a man woke up with his eyeballs on his pillow, intact. But inside their sockets were tiny arms, crawling, gripping, twitching. No one walked past the tamarind tree anymore. Not even the birds. And yet the tree watched. Always. The tamarind tree's roots spread farther than anyone thought. Beneath homes. Beneath the school. Even beneath the temple. And at night, it pulsed. Like a second heartbeat for the entire village. Those who slept above its roots began to scream in their dreams. Not from fear. From being chased. The villagers called in a shaman from the neighboring province. He arrived with chants, offerings, and a tiger's claw around his neck. This is not just a curse. This is a soul split and buried. He told them, whoever stole the arms severed a spirit. But the spirit is reclaiming itself. He walked to the tamarind tree, sat in meditation. Hours passed. Then he vomited black water. He has roots in the dream world. He grows by eating memory. That night, 3 children forgot their parents. An old man forgot how to speak. A mother forgot she ever gave birth. And in the center of the village, a new root burst through the ground. It was pale, veined, and shaped like an arm. It reached toward the sky. Then turned and pointed toward the school. The children had been drawing again. Not eyes this time. Not arms. But graves. Dozens. Each one with a name. Some real. Some not yet dead. That evening, during sunset prayers, the monk collapsed. He muttered only one thing before dying. He is planting himself. The villagers dug around the tamarind tree. They found bones, dozens of them. But none complete. All missing a right arm. The roots twisted around each skeleton like veins. As if feeding. Then, a boy named Locke vanished. In his place, they found a drawing on his wall, a man made entirely of arms. That night, everyone dreamed the same dream. A field of bodies. All standing. All missing their arms. All chanting.
Piece by piece. Root by root. I rise.
It began with footprints. Large. Heavy. 3-toed. Found every morning, always fresh. But no one ever saw them being made. Then came the dragging. Villagers heard it at night, something heavy being pulled along the dirt paths. SHHK. SHHK. Thump. Always toward the tamarind tree. One woman, M.O. Tuet, placed flour at her doorstep. By morning, the flour was gone. And so was her left leg. No blood. No wound. Just gone. She cried that night, not in pain, but in confusion.
Why? Don't I remember how to walk?
The temple bell began ringing by itself. Always at 3:33 a.m. When they went to check, no one was there. But the bell rope was wet. With mud. Then came the sightings. First a child saw it.
It's big. Made of people.
Then 2 elders. They screamed, tore their eyes out, and died. A priest tried to bless the soil. His shadow burned onto the temple wall. That night, someone saw it clearly. A man returning from the river. He dropped his lantern when he saw what stood near the tamarind tree. A creature. 7 feet tall. Covered in stitched-together limbs. its right arm long, pale, still twitching. Its head. Just an empty hood. No face. Just breath. He couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then it whispered.
Almost whole.
The next day, all the villagers' chickens were found dead. All missing their wings. All facing the tree. The creature didn't kill quickly. It stalked. Waited. Feeding off fear. A girl who tried to burn the arm drawings on her wall found herself with third-degree burns. The drawings were untouched. People tried to flee the village. The bridge collapsed. The buses crashed. The sky above the village stayed stormy, only above the village. They were trapped. The tamarind tree now bled. Red sap ran like veins down its trunk. And at its base, someone carved a warning. He walks. Do not look. One boy, Nam, refused to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes. A field. A storm. A man screaming. His grandmother, Bahong, took him to the temple. Not to pray, but to confess. She shook as she spoke.
It wasn't just lightning. Someone took something that night.
She told the monk a story never heard before. About the night Ong Hak died. About the grave robbery. A wandering sorcerer, not from the village, came. He offered her gold. She was poor. She said yes. That night, she led him to the grave. She helped dig. She watched as he cut the arm with a rusted blade.
He said he needed it for a spirit thief.
The monk trembled. You helped sever a soul. She cried.
I thought he was just a corpse.
The monk tried to perform a soul restoration rite. He lit camphor, drew salt lines, chanted in Sanskrit. But as he finished, the flame went out. The floor cracked. And from beneath the temple came a whisper.
You owe me an arm.
Bahong screamed. Her body lifted into the air, then snapped backward. Her right arm turned completely black, then disintegrated into ash. In the temple's lotus pond, bubbles formed, as if something was breathing under the water. Meanwhile, Nam vanished. All that remained was his drawing. A figure made of shadows, reaching out to embrace the boy. Inside the figure's chest, a heart-shaped hole. And written below,
The final piece is close.
The monk left the village that night. In his final note, he wrote, The arm wasn't cursed. It was anchored. The soul of Ong Hak cannot rest. Because the ritual was never finished. The villagers didn't know what that meant. But the tamarind tree cracked open at midnight. And something crawled out. The tamarind tree was no longer a tree. It had split open down the middle, revealing a hollow chamber within. Inside, bones. Dozens of them. Arranged into a throne. And seated on that throne, him. Not quite a man. Not quite a spirit. A thing built from stolen body parts. His right arm long, cracked, and veined with lightning. His face a blank mask. But when he turned to look, everyone saw someone different. Their father. Their child. Their fear. The entire village gathered without knowing why. As if summoned. Pulled by invisible strings. Children cried blood. Pregnant women collapsed. And in the air, a low, guttural hum.
You all watched. You all buried. You all forgot.
His voice was hundreds layered at once, old men, crying babies, thunder. Every villager dropped to their knees. From the shadows, Nam stepped forward. His eyes were gray. His chest glowed. He raised a single hand, not his. The original arm. It twitched in rhythm with the thing on the throne. Nam whispered.
He wants to go home.
Then, everything shook. The earth cracked. The sky bled lightning. People screamed, but no sound came out. All mirrors shattered. All photographs melted. All doors vanished. No escape. Nam approached the throne, holding the arm. The creature leaned forward. And finally, gently, took it back. The moment he did, the tree exploded in white fire. Wind howled like banshees. And the entire village saw a man standing in the rice field. Barefoot. Smoking from the chest. His face. Peaceful. It was Ong Hak. Whole. Complete. And finally, smiling. Then he turned to ash. The fire died. The wind calmed. The tamarind tree crumbled to dust. And Nam fell unconscious. When he awoke, he remembered nothing. But no more knocking came. No more drawings. No more whispers. Just silence. And a grave. Marked only with a lightning symbol. A year passed. The village rebuilt. No one spoke of the lightning, the tree, or the screams. Nam grew up. He no longer remembered anything, or so people believed. But at night, he still mumbled in his sleep. One night, his mother heard him say,
The ash remembers.
She checked his bed. Under the mattress, a drawing. Fresh. In charcoal. A hand. Reaching from under the earth. At the temple, a new monk arrived. Young. Eager. Curious. He cleaned out the back storerooms. In a locked box, he found a jar of gray powder labeled only with a single word, don't. That night, he opened it. The ash rose on its own. In the mirror, the monk saw someone else's eyes. Then, no eyes at all. The next morning, he was blind. And the ash was gone. That week, 3 more children began sleepwalking. They stood at the edge of the former tamarind tree site, now just scorched earth, and sang.
One by one, the piece is gone. One by one, the ash comes on.
A new root cracked the ground. Nam began drawing again. But not with pencils. With soot. And on walls. Floors. His own skin. The drawings were no longer of the arm, but of a new shape. Something made of wind. And flame. And hunger. It had no body. Just outlines. But it hovered above the old village in every sketch. One elder, now mute, pointed at a drawing. He trembled, dropped his rosary, and died of a heart attack. Nam whispered again. In his sleep.
He didn't go. He changed.
A girl named Mai disappeared. They found her shoes. Filled with ash. Nam's house burned down. But the fire didn't touch the soot drawings. The village priest declared. It was never a curse. It was a summoning. That night, the wind blew backwards. Time-stuttered roosters crowed at midnight, clocks reversed. In the center of the village, a shadow began to form. No feet. No voice. Just intent. And then, lightning struck. Again. The ground cracked. And a second arm reached out. Not from the past. But from something newly born. Something made not from bones. But from all the fear they left behind. Our second story tonight comes from Tai Hoa, a quiet town by the sea. Point 1. They say the hospital there has 2 doors. Point 1. One heals. One kills. No one knows which is which. Dewey arrived just after midnight. Fresh out of med school. Confident. Curious. Clueless. Point 1, his first night shift. The halls were cold. The fluorescent lights flickered, buzzing like insects. The head nurse handed him a clipboard. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. Point 2, never question the layout. Never change a patient's room. Never open doors without permission. He thought she was joking. In the break room, 2 orderlies were whispering. Point 3, you heard about bed 17, 4, dead. Yesterday. Just a sprained ankle. They fell silent as Dewey walked in. Smiled awkwardly. He poured coffee. Point 1, on the wall was a map of the hospital. 2 main entrances. Point 1, one circled in red ink. Faded, as if someone tried to scrub it off. That night, he couldn't sleep. The hallway outside his room felt too quiet. No footsteps. No carts. Point 1, then.
Tap. 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 Point 1, footsteps. Barefoot. Slow. Coming from the east wing. Point 1, he opened the door, but no one was there.
A chill ran up his spine. He turned to close the door. And saw at Point 1, a smudge. Like a handprint. But too long. Too many fingers. He wiped it off. Went back to bed. Told himself it was nothing. Point 1, but just before he drifted off.
Wrong door. 1, a whisper. From under his bed. Point 1, he didn't move. He didn't breathe.
The next morning, his room was locked from the outside. He had to bang on the door to get out. Point 2, you slept in the east wing? Alone? The nurse asked. Point 1, he nodded. Point 2, don't. Ever again. That night, someone slipped a note under his door. Point 1, it read, if you ask about the doors, she comes. If you find the door, she follows. Dewey asked around about the east wing. No one answered. But he kept hearing the name Lynn. Point 1, Lynn was a pregnant woman. She died during labor in that hospital. Long ago. Point 1, they say the power went out. No one came. No one helped. Point 1, she bled out in silence. Her baby died with her. Point 1, that night, a nurse saw her, soaked in blood, crawling the hall, whispering for help. Since then, they say she lives in the walls. Point 1, she guards the cursed door. Waiting. Point 1, every time someone enters by mistake. She sees it. She follows them home. They say the baby was never buried. And neither was she. Point 1, just sealed inside room 304. Point 1, the room no one speaks of. They assigned Dewey to the night shift again. East wing. Just outside room 304. Point 1, he asked about it. The nurse only shook her head. Point 2, we don't use that room. It's under renovation. But every night, someone went in and never came back out. Point 1, the door creaked at 3:12 a.m. sharp. Point 1, but the CCTV feed showed nothing. No one. Just the door. Opening by itself. Until one night, there was a patient. An elderly man. Mr. Min. Point 1, transferred to room 304 by accident. A paperwork mix-up. Dewey tried to stop it. He begged the staff. No one listened. Point 1, Mr. Min was wheeled into 304. He smiled at Dewey.
Thank you, doctor. I feel better already.
The door shut. Point 1, Dewey stayed outside. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Then 5. Suddenly, screaming. Point 1, not Mr. Min's voice. A woman. Screeching. Like her lungs were rotting. Point 1, the lights in the hallway exploded. Point 1, blood began to seep under the door. Security came. Banged the door open. Nothing inside. Point 1, no bed. No patient. No walls. Just blackness. Point 1, like the room had been erased. They sealed it off with chains. Welded the frame shut. Point 1, but every night since 3:12 a.m., the chains rattle. Point 1, and behind the door. Breathing. Dewey saw the nurse who filed the transfer. She was pale, lips trembling. She tried to speak, but her tongue had been ripped out. That night, Dewey found a note on his locker. Room 304 is not a room. It's a mouth. And now, it remembers your name. That night, Dewey didn't go home. He sat in the supply closet with the lights off, clutching the note. The air felt heavier, like someone was standing behind him, breathing in sync with every exhale. But there was no one. At 3:12 a.m., the building trembled. Just slightly. Like a heartbeat. Inside the walls. And from somewhere deep in the east wing, a child cried. Not loud. Just a soft, gurgling whimper. Newborn. Hungry. He followed it. Step by step. Floor by floor. Until he stood in front of a janitor's closet. Door ajar. Inside, no baby. Just a bundle of sheets soaked in blood. And on the wall, scratched with fingernails, a message. He turned and saw someone standing at the end of the hallway. A woman in a hospital gown. Hair dripping wet. Belly swollen. She pointed at him. Then at her stomach. Then she opened her mouth and screamed, but there was no sound. The lights exploded down the corridor one by one. Dewey ran. He didn't stop until he crashed into the head nurse.
You saw her, didn't you?
He couldn't answer.
You need to leave.
What is she?
She died giving birth. In pain. Alone. Now she tries to finish it. Again and again. And she needs someone to play the doctor.
That night, Dewey packed his things. But the elevator wouldn't open. Every floor button had been scratched out except one, the basement. Against his will, the elevator moved. Slowly. Creaking. When the doors opened, it wasn't the basement. It was a delivery room. Old. Rusted. Covered in red-stained sheets. And in the center, Lynn lay on the table. Eyes open. Dead. But her belly moved. Something inside. Still kicking. A voice echoed behind him.
Doctor, please, help me finish it.
Dewey turned. But no one was there. The doors slammed shut. And the lights went out. Dewey froze. His back pressed against the metal wall. The air reeked of rust. And something rotting. On the table, Lynn's eyes stared right at him. Unblinking. Empty. Her mouth moved. Slowly. Skin cracking at the lips.
Help me push.
He stepped back. But the floor squished. It wasn't tiles. It was soaked. Blood. Sticky. Fresh. Then, the stirrups snapped open. Lynn's legs lifted themselves. Bones cracking. Her body started convulsing, as if something inside her was clawing to get out. Dewey screamed. He slammed his fists on the elevator doors. Let me out. But behind him, the baby cried. Not a healthy cry. A gurgling, wet cry like lungs filled with fluid. Lynn sat up.
He's not breathing. Doctor.
Her voice tore through the walls. The lights burst one by one. Something splashed behind him. He turned. A pale hand reached out from between her legs. Too big for a baby. Clawed. Blue. The creature pulled itself out. Covered in blackened amniotic fluid. It had no face. Just a hole. Filled with teeth. It stood on the bed. Crawled toward Dewey. He screamed, grabbed a metal tray, and threw it. The sound echoed like a bell. For a moment, everything stopped. Frozen. The creature hissed and vanished into the dark. The elevator doors opened, but they didn't lead to the hospital. It was outside. A field. The old cemetery behind the hospital. Full of graves dug shallow and fast. Dewey stumbled out. Fell to his knees. The wind whispered through the trees. "You're next." He looked down, his shoes were covered in blood. Not his own. In front of him, a tiny grave. Freshly dug. On the headstone, for the baby. No name. And beside it, another, smaller grave. The soil still moving. Dewey stood up and ran. Never looked back. He ran through the trees, not knowing where he was. His breath sharp. His heart louder than his footsteps. Branches tore at his skin. Something was chasing, he didn't look back. Until he reached the edge of the hospital wall. The backside. Where the old morgue used to be. The door was bricked up. But a section had crumbled, just enough to crawl through. He didn't want to. But something pulled him in. Inside was cold. Too cold. On the wall, carved by hand, rows and rows of names. The last line read, Lynn, 27, still bleeding. A low voice echoed from deep within the morgue.
They promised her a child. Promised him a soul.
Dewey turned. It was an old man. A cleaner? Or maybe something older. His eyes were milky white. Skin loose and gray. But he wasn't blind. She wasn't the first, the man said. But she was the last to scream. Dewey asked him what happened that night, Lynn's night.
Delivery room lights cut out. Generator failed. Staff gone. But she wasn't alone. They were watching. From behind the mirror.
Who? Dewey whispered.
The ones who opened the wrong door. And never closed it.
Before he could ask more, the lights snapped off. Total darkness. Then, the sound of something wet. Dragging on the tiles. Dewey lit his phone. The man was gone. But down the hallway, 2 wet footprints. Leading into a hidden corridor. That wasn't on any map. He followed. At the end, a sealed door. Brass plaque above, maternity ward, closed since 1996. Someone had painted over it in red. Not paint. Blood. His hand reached for the knob. Against his will. It turned. Slowly. With a groan. Inside, dust floated like mist. Cribs overturned. Walls stained brown and black. Something lay in the middle, wrapped in sheets. A baby blanket. But it moved. Dewey stepped closer. Pulled the sheet. Nothing inside. But under it, a note. Torn, old, smeared with red. Behind him, something whispered.
Doctor, you're here. Good.
He turned. Lynn stood at the end of the hall. Not alone. She held something. Wrapped in cloth. Dripping. Lynn stepped forward. Slowly. Her gown left red stains across the floor. In her arms, the thing wrapped in cloth squirmed. Not like a baby. Like something older. Angry. Her eyes locked with Dewey's. They were not hers. They were full of smoke. Of fire. Of hunger.
They promised me peace. Instead, they gave me purpose.
Dewey backed into the wall. But the door behind him was gone. Only bricks. Lynn dropped the bundle on the floor. It unfurled. Inside, bones. Hundreds. Tiny. from dozens of babies. Skulls no larger than fists.
Every wrongdoer fed him. Every mistake made him stronger.
The walls cracked. The floor split. A black pit yawned beneath the maternity ward. From it, a shape rose. Crawling. Towering. Skin like oil. Face shifting, one moment a child, the next a crying mother, then a twisted priest. Dewey screamed. But no sound came out. Lin turned to the shape.
He is ready. The new mouth is open.
From the pit, a voice rumbled. Ancient. Male. Female. Both. Neither. There must always be two doors. One for healing. One for feeding. The balance must be kept. That is the pact. Dewey fell to his knees. Why knee?
Because you opened it. And you stayed.
The shape lunged forward. Consumed the floor. The lights. Everything. But then a bell. Soft. Pure. From the ceiling, a rope fell. A broken alarm bell from the old surgical wing. Dewey grabbed it. Pulled. The scream that came wasn't his. It was Lin's. And the things. Together. In agony. Light surged. A white flood. Blinding. Burning. Then. Silence. Dewey woke in a hospital bed. Surrounded by staff he didn't recognize.
He's awake. Finally.
He sat up. The room was clean. White. No cracks. No stains. But no windows. Where am I?
Welcome to the West Wing, Doctor.
There is no West Wing.
There is now. She smiled. But her teeth were too sharp.
Dewey stood up from the bed. His legs weak. His skin cold. Everything felt off. Too clean. Too white. Too perfect. The walls hummed. Not from electricity, from breathing. He touched the 4 line in his arm. Blood wasn't flowing in. It was flowing out. He ripped it free. The nurse came back. Her eyes were black. Lips gone.
You don't belong here. But he wants you to stay.
Dewey pushed past her, ran down the corridor. Every door was the same, white, unmarked, silent. Until he saw it, a mirrored door at the very end. One he hadn't seen before. His reflection didn't move. It stared, smiled, raised its hand. But he hadn't. The mirror shattered from within. A hand reached through, grabbing his neck. Not pulling him in, but pulling something out. He gasped as images flooded his mind, the first ritual. The first offering. The first scream. A secret room. Years ago. Doctors in black coats. Candles. A woman strapped to the bed. Lynn. The door they opened wasn't a medical door. It was a spiritual gate. One to take suffering from this world and push it into another. But they lied. It didn't take pain. It fed on it and grew. Dewey collapsed. Vomited blood. On the floor, it spelled a word. One word. Over and over. Behind him, dozens of figures now stood. Faces he'd seen in the hospital halls. The silent patients. The janitor. The head nurse. All watching. One stepped forward. Wore his face. Every mouth must have a voice. You're his now. And with that, the doors shut. Some say Dewey escaped. Fled the hospital. never returned. Others say he's still there, but no longer himself. He walks the halls at night, in the east wing, always whispering to the empty rooms. Push now. Just a little more. His eyes are no longer his own. The hospital? Still open. Still healing. But the door, but if you stand still, real still, you'll feel the air shift. Cold on one side, warm on the other. The nurses won't talk about it. The doctors pretend not to notice. But janitors? They know. They carry salt in their pockets, whispers on their tongues. And on stormy nights, the chains on room 304 rattle. The lights flicker in time with a heartbeat. And somewhere down the hall, a baby cries. No one ever finds it. And if you're unlucky enough to be on shift when the crying stops, don't open the door. Don't look through the mirror. And above all, never ask which entrance you used. Because the hospital may save your body, but not your name.